Schelly's Crafting Collectivity, American Rainbow Gatherings and Alternative Forms of Community, 2014, is an ethnographic and sociological study of the rainbow family of living light, an informal, non-commercial network that hosts large, temporary gatherings in U.S. forests as experiments in communal living. Drawing on the Chicago School of Sociology and thinkers like Durkheim and Mauss, Schelly examines rainbow gatherings as social worlds where participants create egalitarian, participatory systems for food, sanitation, governance, and care through voluntary labor and ritualized interaction. These gatherings foster collective effervescence and communitas through shared language, ritual, and bodily connection, hugs, drumming, cooking, and consensus councils, all rejecting capitalist individualism and materialism in favor of cooperation, environmental reverence, and spiritual inclusivity. Through vivid ethnographic detail, Schelly shows how the gathering's anarchic yet patterned organization, rooted in consensus, equality, and ecological ethics, offers a living critique of mainstream social and technological systems, revealing how collective action and material practice can reimagine community and connection beyond consumer society. Schelly is an American sociologist whose work focuses on the intersections of technology, environment, and community, particularly how material systems shape social organization and cultural values. A professor of sociology at Michigan Technological University, she studies sustainability, energy transitions, and alternative modes of living, including intentional communities, off-grid technologies, and grassroots movements that challenge dominant social and economic structures. Her research often explores how individuals and collectives engage with technological systems, from renewable energy infrastructures to DIY cultures, in ways that foster autonomy, ecological responsibility, and social connection. Across her scholarship, Schelly emphasizes participatory, human-centered approaches to technological and social change, revealing how everyday practices and material choices can cultivate more sustainable and equitable futures. In the Acknowledgements of Crafting Collectivity, Schelly expresses deep gratitude to the mentors and loved ones who shaped her intellectual and personal journey. She thanks three academic influences in particular: Jean Blocker at the University of Tulsa, who first encouraged her sociological curiosity and suggested studying rainbow gatherings; Peter Taylor at Colorado State University, who supported her interest in alternative technologies and lifestyles; and Mustafa Emirbayer at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, her Ph.D. advisor, whose mentorship, enthusiasm, and guidance in sociological theory and writing were crucial to the book's development. Schelly also thanks friends from Tulsa who introduced her to the rainbow gatherings, her life partner for his unwavering support and assistance during fieldwork, and Butterfly Bill for his historical writings and generous feedback on her manuscript. Collectively, she frames the book as the product of both intellectual mentorship and the collaborative, loving support of her personal and research communities. In the introduction to Crafting Collectivity, American Rainbow Gatherings and Alternative Forms of Community, Schelly introduces the rainbow family gatherings as a distinct social world organized around nonviolence, egalitarianism, consensus-based decision-making, and noncommercial cooperation. She frames the gatherings as both a countercultural experiment and a sociological case study that reveals how material and cultural organization shape human interaction. Drawing on the Chicago School's concept of social worlds and theorists like Durkheim, Mauss, and Becker, Schelly positions rainbow gatherings not as deviant curiosities but as legitimate expressions of collective action that illuminate broader questions about community, technology, and modern life. By contrasting rainbow practices, sharing food, rejecting money, respecting the land, with capitalist, hierarchical systems, the introduction establishes the book's central argument, that by studying how people construct and inhabit alternative forms of dwelling and cooperation, we can better understand how social and material systems influence participation, connection, and meaning in everyday life. In What's With That Rainbow Fest? The opening chapter of Crafting Collectivity, Schelly recounts her first encounter with the Rainbow family and her introduction to their gatherings, blending personal narrative with ethnographic observation. As a curious college student drawn to alternative lifestyles, she joins friends on a road trip to her first Rainbow gathering in Oklahoma, discovering a temporary community in the woods built on free food, open hospitality, non-hierarchical organization, and spiritual inclusivity. Schelly traces the origins of the Rainbow gatherings to the early 1970s counterculture, when peace activists, veterans, and hippies sought to create a non-commercial, non-violent prayer for peace outside mainstream society. Through her experience, she reveals how the gathering's norms, welcoming strangers with welcome home, communal cooking, calling everyone family, and making decisions by consensus, embody an anarchistic yet cooperative social experiment that challenges capitalist values and conventional social structures. Who Goes Home? Explores who attends Rainbow gatherings and how participants' identities and interactions blur social boundaries. Drawing on her early fieldwork at a 2002 Oklahoma regional gathering, she introduces a mix of attendees, teachers, veterans, travelers, professionals, and drifters, whose diverse backgrounds dissolve into a shared identity of family. People rarely discuss their Babylonian, mainstream, lives. Instead, worth is measured by participation, kindness, and cooperation rather than occupation or wealth. The chapter includes an anecdote where Forest Service rangers approach a kitchen crew, illustrating the Rainbow ethos of respectful defiance and humor toward authority. Schelly shows that gatherings attract a wide range of people united by a desire for freedom, community, and connection to the land. The Rainbow world temporarily erases class, age, and occupation, offering a space where behavior and contribution, not status, define belonging. Rainbow Land. Understanding Rainbow Space analyzes how the physical and social organization of Rainbow gatherings reflects their broader cultural values of equality, cooperation, and ritualized participation. Drawing on the Chicago School's spatial sociology, she describes how the gatherings' layout, kitchens, camps, a camp, and main circles, emerges organically through collective negotiation rather than formal planning, creating what she calls a patterned anarchy. This self-organized environment both symbolizes and sustains the social relationships within it, where communal labor, shared resources, and decentralized decision-making replace hierarchy and ownership. Schelly examines tensions that arise, such as between older peaceful hippies and younger dirty kids, to show how spatial divisions mirror differing interpretations of Rainbow ideals. Ultimately, she argues that the gathering's temporary, evolving, and self-dismantling city in the woods functions as both a lived experiment in anarchistic order and a ritualized expression of collective identity and social harmony. The Free World of Rainbow, Food and Other Material Stuff examines how the Rainbow Gatherings' systems of food, water, sanitation, and material exchange embody their ethos of voluntary cooperation, equality, and non-commercial living. She describes how communal kitchens, collectively built and run by volunteers, feed thousands for free using donations gathered through the Magic Hat, and how participants establish low-tech infrastructures, like gravity-fed water lines and hand-dug latrines, that require shared labor and mutual trust. These material systems, from kitchens like tea time to dishwashing stations, not only meet basic needs but also reinforce Rainbow values of participation and reciprocity. Schelly contrasts these collaborative, transparent practices with the alienating, commodified systems of mainstream society, arguing that the physical organization of life at Rainbow, where sustenance, care, and labor are communal and unpriced, creates a lived critique of capitalist consumption and an embodied experience of interdependence and equality. Rainbow Speak, Language and Communication explores how the distinctive language of the Rainbow family both expresses and reinforces the community's values of peace, inclusivity, and collectivity. Through unique vocabulary, such as welcome home, family, bliss, Babylon and Shanti Sena gatherers linguistically construct a world separate from mainstream society and grounded in mutual care and spiritual unity. Everyday speech acts and shared phrases function as rituals of connection, transforming ordinary interactions into expressions of belonging. Schelly shows how this language fosters harmony even in moments of tension, as gatherers use words of love and respect to mediate conflicts or interact with outsiders like forest service rangers. At the same time, terms that contrast rainbow and Babylon highlight the community's boundary from the capitalist world. Overall, Schelly argues that rainbow communication is both practical and symbolic, a performative tool that sustains egalitarian social order, nurtures emotional bonds, and linguistically crafts the collective identity of the gathering. The Free Life of Rainbow, Hugs and Other Ways to Touch examines the embodied, nonverbal practices through which rainbow gatherings cultivate intimacy, trust, and collective belonging. She describes how physical gestures, especially hugs, eye contact, and shared bodily presence, function as forms of communication that dissolve social boundaries and reinforce emotional connection. These micro-ceremonies, including group hugs, nakedness, drumming, and spontaneous interaction, replace the alienation of mainstream life with open, participatory engagement. At Rainbow, touching and looking people in the eye are acts of equality and acknowledgement, contrasting sharply with the guarded, individualistic norms of Babylon. Schelly argues that such bodily rituals generate what Durkheim called collective effervescence, a shared emotional energy that binds participants into a temporary but powerful community, demonstrating how physical interaction, rather than ideology or hierarchy, sustains the social cohesion and spiritual vitality of the gathering. The Church of Nature, Rainbow Connections with the Earth explores the deep spiritual and ethical relationship between the rainbow family and the natural world, portraying nature as both sacred space and central participant in the community's rituals. She explains that rainbow gatherings treat the forest as a cathedral, where respect for the land, through leave-no-trace practices, vegan communal meals, herbal medicine, and eco-conscious living, is a core moral principle. Schelly introduces the concept of being earthwise, describing participants who see environmental care as a spiritual duty and practice sustainability through hands-on stewardship and ecological education. The gathering's organization, from waste systems to water sourcing, reflects reverence for nature as a living, shared home rather than a resource to exploit. Ultimately, Schelly argues that rainbow spirituality merges ecological awareness with collective ritual, transforming environmental responsibility into a sacred act of connection that unites community, spirituality, and sustainability. Conclusion: Crafting Collectivity reflects on rainbow gatherings as living experiments in how humans can intentionally organize community, material systems, and social interaction around cooperation rather than competition. She argues that the gathering's noncommercial, participatory structures, where people collectively provide food, water, care, and decision-making, reveal how material practices shape cultural values of equality and interdependence. By contrasting rainbow life with the alienating infrastructures of mainstream society, Schelly shows that these temporary, volunteer-built cities in the woods model how technology and organization can foster empowerment and connection instead of hierarchy and isolation. Drawing on Durkheim, Mauss, and Goffman, she suggests that rainbow rituals of participation and shared labor produce collective effervescence, moments of deep human unity that challenge capitalist norms. Ultimately, Schelly concludes that the rainbow family's patterned anarchy demonstrates the transformative potential of crafting social worlds rooted in care, mutual responsibility, and material collaboration. In Being a Rainbow Sister, a methodological appendix, Schelly reflects on her dual role as both sociologist and participant within the rainbow family, blending personal narrative with methodological transparency. She explains that her long-term engagement with the gatherings, as both researcher and rainbow sister, allowed her to experience the community's practices of sharing, openness, and spirituality from the inside, shaping a deeply empathetic ethnography. Schelly acknowledges the tensions and advantages of insider research. Her immersion granted her trust and authenticity, yet required constant reflexivity to balance affection with critical analysis. By situating herself within the field she studies, she illustrates how participatory observation can itself be a form of connection and ethical engagement. Ultimately, this section emphasizes that understanding rainbow life, rooted in collectivity, reciprocity, and lived spirituality, requires both sociological rigor and heartfelt participation, mirroring the book's central theme of unity between doing, being, and knowing.